Hello and welcome, new and true friends, to Living with Intention. I am April Wyatt, and I created this community with the intention of offering you different modalities for your wellness. And if you've been listening to me for a while now, you know that I like to bring forward new ways to approach wellness. And in this series is no different as we share about bridging the gap between business and spirituality. And I feel this topic is crucial because for the most of us, we have a good portion of our days in work or in a certain environment. And we spend a lot of time either thinking or doing these duties of work. And wellness tends to be overlooked. As I've witnessed how people feel there's a duality when it comes to work life or personal or spiritual life. And it's like they feel they have to sacrifice a part of themselves when they go into those environments. And maybe having that old, um, just that thought process of you cannot mix business with personal life or pleasure. And this actually separates ourselves from our own essence or spirituality. And maybe you've experienced this yourself when you're in that environment and without having the awareness of living in this duality, you may notice that your energy is lower, that you feel a little bit depleted because you're not living from your essence or your spark. And so for this series, I'm inviting professionals who have learned how to navigate and finding balance between business and spirituality. And they will share different ideas so you can stay true to your essence in any environment so you can continue to live a more vibrant life. I've invited Teresa Shantz, who is a new yet very familiar friend of mine. It's kind of funny to think about it that way, but it's true. And we connected through social media while I was on my travels around the nation, and we share a lot of common interests. And when I met Teresa in person, it was just, I knew she was in alignment and would be a perfect fit for this series, as she shared with me that she is on a personal mission to help others understand and embrace the spiritual part of their journey. So, a little bit about Teresa. In the past, she served in the US Air Force and supported others with healing. And now she's expanding her own wisdom through writing and full-time podcasting. Teresa is also a co-owner of TNT Sprit Works with her soulmate Tom, and together they travel the world sharing spiritual tools and techniques with others. So now you see why I resonate so well with Teresa, as we have a lot in common. So let's give a warm welcome to Teresa. Thank you, Teresa, for being here.
Thank you, April. What a warm welcome that was. And I'm so honored to be here and honored to be a new friend of yours, which, like you mentioned, when we met, I'm like, I know April. I know this essence of who's sitting in front of me. So thank you so much for having me on. I'm honored.
Oh, yes. It's just amazing. I love this. I always say that, just the right people line up. And this is why we're here, right? To share about spirituality and about business and just knowing that we're all interconnected, right? There's no separation. And I think that's the big thing of when people are in those environments, they tend to fragment themselves and leave part of their own essence behind. Can you share maybe some experiences you've had with that or how you've witnessed that in your life and overcome that?
Well, it's interesting, April, because I look at my life and I'm in my mid 50s. And coming into this lifetime, I truly believe that we are all a soul in a physical body, not a physical body with a soul. So as that soul, like you mentioned earlier about the essence and we really have a spiritual thrust and energy that we all work with while we're here. And so looking back at my life, I was 38 when I went to massage therapy school and started the healing and opening up to the spiritual part of my life. But prior to that, honestly, things had happened and things had lined up. And I was working with my spiritual helpers and I was working with spirit and my essence, my whole existence. But it was really when I came into my 30s and I really started recognizing how to tune in better, how to understand the energies of places I went to. So, and I got sick or I felt weird or in different situations, it really opened me up to understanding who I am as a soul in a bigger way. And not that anything's woo woo about it, but this is part of who we are. Like you mentioned, the spirit and the matter. We are an energetic being in a physical body. We move with this energy our whole life. And even when we pass on, we still are that energy being. We just lose the body. So going through my life, yes, I've had all kinds of unique experiences that have come up for me. And let me think of one that I want to share with you. Let's see. Probably I'll share with you the one about me becoming sick. So I was a massage therapist. About 5 years, 6 years in, I started not feeling well and I started developing autoimmune disorders and autoimmune symptoms in my body. And it comes to find out down the road when I realized and recognized how I wasn't cleansing myself. I wasn't keeping tabs of the boundaries I have energetically with others that I was very intimate with as far as massaging or doing healing work. And I got sick. And then 7 years into my massage therapy, I really had to close my practice because my hands were a mess and I could no longer work with them. So that part of it obviously showed up in the physical, and it can show up all kinds of different ways for people. But I know a lot of people deal with autoimmune disorders and physical maladies that do show up. And sometimes it can be because of the energy around us and not understanding how to work and differentiate what's me and what's not me. So that's one example. I have a whole bunch of them, but that's the first one that popped into my mind, April.
Yes. And I really can definitely uh, relate to that about what's mine, what's not mine, especially when we're working with other people. And this could be any area in your life. It could be family members, it could be the work environment, it could be your own partners that you're with too. So without realizing it, we have these connections, these deeper connections and energies with them. And I just learned about Dr. Porges with the polyvagal theory. He calls it neurosensory. So that's hardwired in our nervous system. And so think of the nervous system as the electricity running through our bodies. Well, then that permeates out around our bodies. So that could be called the aura. And so when we're interacting with others and we're not aware and do not, as you say, cleanse or put your attention on your intention of being with that person and then being able to, yeah, just witness them for who they are, hold your own energetic boundaries and allow them to feel what they're feeling. You don't have to go into those rabbit holes with them. And then that, because that's when we start to feel yucky or, there's some challenges there. We take on that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I think especially talking about the workplace. And so I was, like you said, in the US Air Force, and I was overseas in Germany and working in environments that are different and out of the norm. And knowing that as a sensitive people, as sensitive souls that we all are, it's very subtle oftentimes as far as recognizing really how an energy may affect you. But think about it for the listeners is think about walking into a place and how do you feel? I mean, that's the first thing that really hits us is the energy of the room. And then like April's mentioning about, the people we live with, the people we play with, the people we work with, all of that energy can affect our energy. And so it really is as subtle as what am I feeling in this moment? how am I feeling in this moment? And then starting, like you're saying, discerning and, what is that about? And why am I feeling this and that? So I like to really share, April, that it can be as subtle as that. And there's nothing, like I mentioned in the beginning, there's nothing woo-woo or magical about this. This is part of all of our existence. And understanding how to start relating to these subtleties and how to really feeling what am I feeling in my gut or my heart or my head, and how am I to shift that where I, can maybe move out of not feeling so well or the situation I'm in with somebody.
Yes. Mm. Teresa, do you happen to have a modality or something that you would like to share, or a technique to help people become more aware of when that is starting to happen? Besides the question of what am I feeling right now and just noticing.
Mhm. Well, one thing I like to do, and which is very simple and anyone can do it, really is just to start feeling their own energy. And so it really is as simple as like bringing your hands together and, moving your hands together to really
Yeah.
create some heat.
So those of you who are listening on the podcast, Teresa's rubbing her palms together and
Mhm.
fingers are together. And so we're just going to do this little exercise with Teresa. Thank you, Teresa.
Absolutely. And then once you can probably feel some heat in your hands as you're, moving them back and forth, just kind of bring them apart, maybe like an inch. And just take a deep breath. You might even want to, well, if you're driving, not close your eyes, but just take, kind of go inward a little bit. Depends on what they're listening to, right, April? But just kind of get a sense, if you can, what might feel like between your hands. You might feel different things. Some people feel warmth. Some people feel a magnetizing force. Some people feel nothing, and that's totally okay too. But it's really just starting to tune into, what do I feel of my own energy? And that's what you're sensing here, is your own energy.
Mhm.
And then as you do this, you can also bring it apart a bit. Get a sense if you feel more when you're coming away from your hands, moving them further out, then moving them further back in. And this, April, is really something I feel that's really good to do every so often, especially during the day when you might feel a little off. Just kind of, okay, let me get back to myself, and just like that, again, that subtle, just tuning into, what does my energy feel like right now, and how can I bring myself back home to myself.
Mhm.
And while you're doing this too, yeah, you can take some deep breaths. You can do it as long as you feel like it's, supportive for you. You can do it short, just to kind of tune back into, okay, I feel my energy. There I am. And then, so that's one technique that I like to use a lot, just because it really just kind of hones me back into myself and just brings that presence back to where I'm at this moment.
That was great. And for those of you who are listening, I had my eyes closed. It helps me just to really focus on my palms and bringing it in and out. It kind of reminds me of the old taffy machine, right? The
Mm.
saltwater taffy, and it's like stretchy and kind of springy in there. That's how I connect to my energy. And I do that for Reiki also, when I'm teaching Reiki. I bring awareness to the energies because we do have a lot of energy in our palms. So that was lovely and simple, right? You could do that anywhere, anytime.
Absolutely. And without anyone even recognizing, what are they doing? Just bring your hands together, rub them, and just, okay, you're right, April. So that's really key, is those little things you can do every so often, just to kind of bring you back into balance anywhere you're at.
Yeah, because then that is, I loved how you said to bring you back home, right? Home, or a place that you feel good. That's also, I call it, an internal resource that we have within ourselves. And so just having that pause, especially when we're at work or when we're in an environment where we don't feel safe, or we feel that we're on edge around others, we really need to touch base, right? Back into ourselves.
Absolutely. And I call that also, the first loyalty. So the first loyalty is the loyalty to myself, because it's just kind of like that putting on your the mask when it pops down in the airplane, right? Like I have to put on mine first in order to take care of anyone else. So the loyalty without any ego, or it's not about, I'm trying to control anybody, but it's about myself. Like we have to take care of ourselves first. Then it moves to the second loyalty, which is those around us, our immediate people, the people you're either working with or the people you're living with. And then after the second loyalty, it goes further out to the bigger picture of how to work with the collective, how to work with your community, your group. So, but it all, like you're saying, April, starts with home, starts with me. The first loyalty to myself is key. And from there, I can work outwards.
That was beautiful. I loved hearing those, the loyalty. So the first loyalty was to take care of self.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
and then the second is people around. And then the third is the collective community. So it reminds me a lot of the ripple effect, right? It starts with ourselves and then it ripples out.
Absolutely. And I think that's a lot of, in society, there's so much about, not taking care of me, or it's all about the ego, whatever. It's not. It does start with us. But there, of course, there are people that take it to extremes, right? Where it's all about me and all about, but this is different. This is about your energy. It's about your soul essence of taking care of your needs, so that way you can then go out and do, because if you don't take care of your needs, you're going to get ill. You may, be weak. You may not be as strong as you can be to support why you're really here and what you're to be of service of. So really it starts with home and yourself.
Yes. Yeah. And I hear that a lot. People talking about how they go into work or they're in certain environments and they literally say like, it just sucks the life right out of me. And when I hear them say that, uh, then I know that they're not anchoring in. They're not aware. They might be aware, but they forget too, right? We tend to forget, and that's okay, right? It's just bringing yourself back again, and this is throughout the day. This isn't going to be a one and done.
Absolutely, April. I mean, because I've been doing this for several years, and I mean, we're human. That's what I like to tell people when I meet people in person. It's like, look, you're human. As a human being, we are going to have times when we're thrown off, and I still do too. Times when we're tired, I'm the same way too. Like we're living these existences, but being able to understand how your essence as a soul exists within you and how you can take a little more better care of that, so you can function better, because we're here to be of service. And that's a lot what I do in TNT Sprit Works. We're all about making spirituality practical. It's about being practical because we have to pay the bills. We have got to go to work. We have got to take care of the house and the car and the pets, and all of this in the sense of also being a spiritual being that is very sensitive. And these days, there's so much going on energetically from the five stuff, the 5G stuff on their telephones, from our computer, from the collective energies of everyone on the planet, because we're all connected energetically, that it's a lot of on our bodies. So really being able to hone back in and being practical with, how do I take care of my energy as a whole being, so then I can move in this world with more hope and more clarity and more groundedness, because there's a lot of people that are not grounded and hopeful. And so if you can do that part for yourself, like April was saying earlier, it ripples out. Your essence and your energy and how you show up affects those around you, affects your environment. It even can affect where you work at. You might be surprised if you start tuning in and honing into your own energy, how people shift around you, how things start magnetizing differently for a more supportive environment. And that depends no matter where you're at.
Oh, yes. And in the intro podcast to this series, I talk about tuning forks. So people are vibrating at a certain, vibration, a frequency. They are uh, either tuning to a certain frequency, right? And then you have your tuning fork. Um, and then when you interact with those people, if you're not aware of your own frequency and stay true to that, you can tune to theirs without even knowing it. And it could be positive or, it could be higher or lower vibrations, I like to say. And it's not good or bad. That's just how we're built as humans for survival. That's that neuro um, sensory I was talking about. We're seeking to see where we're safe and how we can relate to other people, so that way we can become part of that tribe. This is hardwired into us people, so it's really challenging to be aware of it and to just reprogram and redirect, right? It's that attention and just witnessing it. So I love how you said that about the frequency and going into different environments, because it's just like the tuning forks.
Well, I also think about it like this, April. Like, okay, if I get up in the morning and if I'm in a bad mood, I will have things around me that aren't not supportive happen. But if I would get and go, you know what? I'm here. I'm alive. Okay. How can I make this day good? And with that intention, things are going to be more supportive throughout my day. And so I think that's a big thing, like you're saying, just like that, being able to be intention with how you move through your day, how you move through your life. And again, we're human, and I too have days when I'm not quite on like I, would like to be, but I can get back into balance quicker than I ever had before. So years ago, I
Yes.
used to call myself a hot, energetic mess because literally, April, I was when I had kids and I had the family and I had all the schedule and I was a homemaker at home, with just the family, and I was all over the place energetically. And that was affecting the life of my family and how I moved through life. I had, some chaos here and there because I didn't understand what it was all about, and my body being an energetic soul in a physical body. So that's another thing I like to really emphasize to people is, how we move through this lifetime, you can take into your own account and make it your own way by staying more in balance and by being like April said, tuning your energy to what you need it to be versus what someone else is around you. So it's so important. I'm so passionate about really just sharing with people these basic things and just really understanding of how we really are here on the physical plane in these, energetic bodies. So
Yes, and that makes perfect sense to me, Teresa, because for those of you who are listening, I highly encourage you to check out the YouTube video, because then you can see Teresa. And in the background, Teresa, what's lit up back there?
my enthusiastically spiritual little logo.
Yes. So can you unpack that? I mean, you're kind of saying it already, but can you unpack that a little bit more and how that dovetails with the TNT spiritual work?
Well, so enthusiastically spiritual, that is what I named my podcast, which I started in 2020 during COVID. Tom and I were over in Australia where he's spent 30 years. And so we went over there to do some mind, body, spirit festivals and visit his family and et cetera. And obviously during, when we were all locked down, I'm like, okay, spirit, what do I do? I can't outflow. So spirit's like podcasts. I'm like, oh, okay. So that's when I birthed them enthusiastically spiritual. So yes, that is one piece of TNT Sprit Works. And it's the piece that I'm really passionate about because like you doing this podcast about intentions, I love being enthusiastic and I love sharing with people through mind, body, spirit aspects of how to work with your spiritual part. So, like, I'll give you an example. Last month was all about industry. So, I had two people come on that talk about business and how they work with universal truths and how they work with their essence in what they do as a business. So, I try each month to really bring different variations around spirituality because, as you probably know, April, there's a lot of people sharing spirituality right now, which is so exciting because there's 8 billion people on the planet. So, the more we get out there, the better for everyone. But yeah, so enthusiastically spiritual is just a piece, and TNT Sprit Works stands for, I'll say Teresa and Tom, or Tom and Teresa, and that spirit works in our life every day. And so Tom and I
Oh, I
reconnected in
love
20.
that.
Yeah, I guess I didn't share that with you when we first met, right? Yep. Yeah, a spirit works in our life every day. So we reconnected in 2017 after a few lifetimes apart, and we reconnected doing our spiritual work, and that's what we're here to do. So the last few years, we've been really building the foundations of our business, expanding, and really showing up where spirit wants us to show up. So through the podcast was one way that spirit wanted me to show up. And Tom and I do expos and we do fairs and we do online consultations. And so, yeah, it's really a great way to come together, especially as a partnership, because he's a lot different than I am. And obviously it's the masculine and feminine, but we work really well together. And it's a really good balance of really two, I want to say normal people coming together, because Tom was an FBI agent. So he's, so I'm Air Force, FBI. So we're just normal people sharing about how to live life with spirit. That's a nutshell.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yes, I so love that and your travels. And that's why I resonate so well with you also, podcasting, spirituality, really putting your intention out there to support others, to let them know that there's different ways, different, um, really about awakening them because it's already within us. And so, with these lovely approaches that you have or modalities, then that helps others to become more aware of their own essence, right?
Absolutely. And again, back to that practicality side is like some of the tool techniques we use are simple. They're not complex because there's room for everything. And I love science. I love how everything's really bringing it all together, but I like to keep it simple. I really do. I mean, like, life is so complex and intellectual and there's a place for everything. But for what I offer and what TNT Sprit Works offer and the podcast and everything we do, I really just like to keep it simple so people can really grasp a hold of the subtleties of how to work with that spiritual part of them and the subtleties of being alive in a physical body, but yet you're an energy being. So that's what I really like to emphasize too, April. It's just that not the complex part of it, but really being more simple and just down to earth with how we work with these amazing essences of ourselves and our spiritual part of us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do have one question for you. And that is for those who are listening and we're talking about business and spirituality and focusing on energy and what your energy is and remembering that you're the ripple effect and those who are just getting snagged. I'm just saying snagged. It's like the river's flowing and then you hit a snag and it has to do with another person in their situation or their work environment that just tends to just take the wind out of their sails. What support or what suggestions do you have for those people who just keep running into this certain type of person or this one person that seems to kind of block them?
Boy, I hate to say this, April, but there's that mirror effect. So what you see, what you see in you, you have in me. So yeah, and that's a really challenging one because everything that we see around us that I hate that, I dislike that, I'm not familiar with that. You're seeing it for a reason because it's within you. So I also like to share about like levels of consciousness. Like everyone on the planet is on a different level of consciousness. We're all here to learn and grow. And so being gentle when you come across the people that maybe are not at the same level of you and maybe are mirroring back a piece of you that needs to be healed. Now, how you heal that piece is individual. There's all kinds of ways. There's beautiful energy work like Reiki. There's breath work. There's somatic work. There's body work. There's tons of ways to really release those blockages or those concepts you might have inside of you that other people are mirroring. But that's what I want to share is that, yeah, what I see in you, I have in me. And so if it's positive or maybe not so positive, it's within us. And
Exactly.
that's a real big nut to open, right? Because then you think about like the politics or the religion or the whatever, and there's so many people that are it's very polarized. Well,
Hmm.
there's a reason why it is right now, because we have to heal these parts of ourselves, and
Mm.
looking at it often is not what we want to see, but it has to be healed, or we come back and do it again. And you know what, we've done it before. So but I think right now, with as many people on the planet that are here to heal and to support people in healing in whatever way that looks like, we are making strides, big
Oh,
strides. And I
yes.
know for myself, yeah, I mean, right, April, like, hello, I'm excited to be here right now, even with all the stuff we're going through. It's like, yeah, we all signed on for this. Hello.
Yes. And also, I think when we have that judgment about the other person or whatever that is, that we're like, if this one person would just leave, I'd be so happy. Well, guess what? Another person is going to show up in another way, and it's going to still keep that whatever that is. So I also like to say to accept that other person for who they are, and not try to change them. And then, as you said so perfectly, Teresa, it's like seeing them as a mirror. Like, oh, this is showing up for me. Why is this activating me? Why am I feeling so heightened around this person or thinking about a situation? And then being able to work through it that way. So, yes, it is a big nut to crack open right now, but I know that there are a lot of people out there, and that's what's going through their minds. If that person would change, if this would only be a certain way, well, it comes to acceptance. It comes to realizing there's something there. And I love how you brought that up, Teresa, about the mirror and to heal those. Yeah.
And another word that comes to mind, April, too, and is gratitude. So, I mean, this is really stepping into it, but being thankful that that person is showing you that. I mean,
Mhm.
that's really big, but that is another heart essence, and just like, yeah, taking it to a different level, right, April?
Yeah. And
Being
speaking of
grateful.
taking it, yeah, taking it to a different level, you have a book that just came out. Can you share a little bit about your book?
The book is called The Soul Quake Survival Guide, Reviving Your Connection to Spirit in Earth Shaking Times. And I'll show you this. This is actually, it'll be out by the time this is out, but this was the example of it. So it's,
Oh, that is lovely.
so I believe we're in earth shaking times. And I started my journey this lifetime in California. So I start the book with being in California and how the earth shakes. When the earth shakes, we feel it in our soul. And when we go through all kinds of things, big and small, everything from being, in the car driving and someone honks at you wrong, or a death, or a divorce, or there's all kinds of things that shake us to our core. So within this book, I have 12 spiritual awarenesses that really tune you back into who you are as a soul. So I'm really excited about this book because it really is a nice guidebook. And you can pick up and go different. You can go like to the one about, maybe your spiritual helpers, or you can go to your intuition. And I share different times in my life that I've been shaken to my core. And a lot of it was really prior to understanding who I was as a soul. So there's no dogma to it. It's just really a very simple book in understanding how to work with the spiritual part of us. But I'm really excited about this book so much, April. And this again was a spirit book, because I was like, no, I'm not going to write a book. And Spirit's like, yes, you are. And then the timing is perfect. It's taken about 2 years, and it wasn't ready to be birthed any other time than right now, with all that we're going through and what I again call, earth shaking time. So thank you
Mm.
so much for asking me about that. I really appreciate it.
Yes, of course. And just that shaking, right? It's just to wake us up to know that there's more to us than we're peeking through a keyhole here, people. We really can't see all the things that that we are so capable of doing and experiencing. We're expansion, and our energy is just as you said in the beginning, Teresa, which was beautiful about, we will leave this body and we will continue uh, on, and the energy continues to go. So that's that expansion. And just by you having that book, birthing it, as you say, during these times is so perfect. Uh, as we all need just a different guide, a different way to approach what's happening for us. This is all happening for us. And so that way we can question and we can become more than who we really think ourselves to be.
Absolutely. And another thing that comes to mind too, as you talk about this, April, is the being able to resonate and the energy of others. There's so many out there sharing about spirituality, which again is so amazing. But that who do you resonate with? And this is just a piece of a person, myself, who's putting out this energy to support whoever this resonates for, because there's so much beautiful work in the world. Just like what you're doing, April. There's so much
Mm.
beautiful work in the world. And that's one thing, a lot of people talk about, competing or whatever. No, it's just all of us unique souls have shown up right now and are like, hey, let's do some healing work. Hey, let's look at this book. Let's do this. And these are just pieces to put into your really spiritual toolbox to assist you and to support you moving forward.
Yes. Great, Teresa. And for those who want to, reach out and may have some questions or would love to work with you or purchase your book, what is your contact information?
I would say a good place to go to is tntspiritworks.com. That's tntspiritworks.com. And really from there, you can find my podcast, or if you go to podcast, I'm on all kinds of podcast channels on YouTube and TNT Sprit Works YouTube. My book is available through Amazon. But again, if you go to the website, it'll be there also. So probably the website is the best place to go to. That's the kind of the hub.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And any parting words, any last uh, words for our listeners and viewers here?
Well, the words that have been coming to me lately is just about trusting where you're at in your journey and just honoring where you're at and honoring what you've put together as a soul to be right here, right now in this present moment. Because it's not only this lifetime, it's other lifetimes. But you really have put so much together for yourself and just honoring that.
Yes, because we're all divine beings.
Absolutely.
Yes. Oh, wonderful, Teresa. It's been such a treat having you here. And I'm so grateful that we connected. And I'm sure that our listeners will be hearing more from you in the near future.
Thank you, April. It's been an absolute pleasure to be on. And yes, meeting has been amazing. And blessings to all your listeners.
Yeah. And for those of you who are new to this YouTube channel or to my podcast, please hit subscribe and also leave a comment. Let Teresa and I know what you enjoyed hearing about today, or maybe even leaving a comment about how you are building your spiritual practices while at work or in other environments in your life. So thank you again for being here. I appreciate you all. And until next time, be well.